were at the same introduction, probably.
Probably.
I have these 3 power plugs there because I thought I would need more power, but I only needed 1. These table saws, they're always a bit on the scary side. That's...
Hi Marloes, how are you?
I'm good.
Your name is Marloes van Son, I pronounce it okay?
Yeah, that's correct.
And you come from?
I'm originally from the Netherlands and have been living in Finland for 8 years now. More even, 8.5, I think.
8.5. I think
Yes.
we must have come around the same time because
I think so.
I'm also here about 8.5 years now.
Yeah, we started studying in the same year, I think. 2014?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just different programs. So what did you study?
I studied visual culture, contemporary art at Aalto University.
Yeah, I was also in Aalto, but a different program. I was in the Media Lab. Let's get back to before that.
Yes, I studied my bachelor's in the Netherlands. The program was called Art Science, and it was this program in between the art school and the music school in The Hague that I followed, and I more or less specialized in installation building with electronics. And I started that program immediately from high school, so I was quite a young art student there.
And how did you decide to go into that? It sounds so specific.
I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do after high school. So I started looking around and I thought about industrial design, and then I went to some open days of some art schools and I found this program, which sounded kind of perfect, more about a sort of multidisciplinary approach. It was very much about developing tools to make things with, or building something to create an experience or installation or something new with. And that's what really attracted me.
And that was a bachelor program, and then you came here for the master's.
Yeah, I had a year in between where I did some kind of, I did an artist residency and some projects with some people, and then I decided to do a master's here.
How did you decide exactly here?
It was a very random choice, kind of. I was looking at different art programs and mainly at these kind of interdisciplinary art programs. There are not that many schools that really offer this interdisciplinary approach as a focus point, I felt, when I was looking around and applying. I knew I wanted to stay somewhere within Europe, and I really wanted to study abroad.
How did you go in the VICA program? Because it sounds more like the Media Lab that you should have gone for.
The VICA program really presented itself as this program that combining conceptual and practical approach, and I felt that I already had quite a good grasp of sort of the technical side and the media side. It was a good choice though in the end, I think, because I did the VICA program and I did get much more of a grasp on the conceptual side of my work. And then I did follow a lot of courses at Media Lab and at the Sound and New Media program.
So what kind of work do you actually do? We haven't really...
we didn't really talk about that yet. So I work a lot with combinations of woodwork, electronics and sound in lots of different varieties. So I build sound installations that people can interact with. Sometimes they're more like instruments that you can play, and sometimes they're more like sort of spatial installations that sometimes react to people's presence, or some more light-based stuff. I also build electronic instruments that I perform with. Sometimes I also build electronic objects for other people, mostly for theater-based production, so kind of more electronic prop design, functional prop design. And then I do some sound-related work. So I've done some short soundtracks for short films, composed my own music and performed that. It's always the combination of sound, electronics and woodwork. I really enjoy working with wood. There's something really nice about the texture of the material, first of all, and sort of you can build very complicated things with very minimal tools, which I very much appreciate.
Yeah, it's somewhere in the middle. It's not very soft like a textile would be, but it's not very hard like a stone, so you can still make something that you would want.
Yeah, and you construct very big things, but also very small and detailed things with the same material, which is something I really enjoy.
Yeah, and then you are in the land of wood making, generally.
Yeah. Yes. Finland has definitely...
it has a lot.
Yeah, emphasized my aesthetics, I'd say. Like certain woodwork design qualities that are omnipresent here have definitely found their way in my work as well.
What are you working on right now?
I just finished an installation, the one that's behind us, with chairs with synthesizer sample players embedded in them. The idea is that that's going to become a series of communicating furniture, let's say. So I'm working on a bench table combination and viewing box television parody type thing. So I'll have the chairs, I'll have the bench, I'll have the television-like object. Hopefully there will also be like a drawer and a cupboard and
And then you just need a bed and that's it.
Then I can fill my whole house with talking furniture.
Are you making it for a specific project? Do you have something coming up after?
I have a lot of applications open, so I'm hoping that I will have an exhibition within a year with these objects, or with some of these objects. I'm going to have an artist residency in October in Czech Republic, where I'm going to present a version of one of these objects.
How do you find your residencies? You just find open calls and apply?
Mostly, yeah. It's a lot of open calls, and then sometimes through friends that share some kind of thing that they think is relevant for me, or some newsletters that I'm signed into that I find some things. But yeah, it's mostly online, just things that I stumble upon.
What amount of time would you say goes into this type of computer work, looking for open calls and applying?
It depends a lot on the time of year. I guess all the administration and application work is maybe 40% of the time.
40? Oof.
It's a lot, because it's not just the applications, but it's also finding the information, sort of staying up to date on things that are happening. Administration, scanning and receipts and putting them in an Excel file and things like that.
Yeah.
The whole thing. It's more than I'd like to. And also I'm a very slow email writer.
Would you trust an AI to write your emails for you?
I don't know. I think that could be pretty good, because my emails are rather impersonal and concise usually. So I guess an AI could definitely learn it. But I don't think I would do it, because it's also kind of a mental thing. I also have this mental list going on, and I try to stay up to date and sort of have my calendar proper. The paper calendar that I carry with me, because I'm that person.
So you still have a paper calendar?
I have a paper calendar, yes.
That's an interesting... I mean, I would assume you as a technical person would... or are you more of a hardware person?
I am very much a hardware person as well. And I've always carried a paper calendar, and I also carry a notebook with me most of the time, because I really love to just make sketches or strange notes, or I combine the writing with some tiny drawings that I make. And I don't really like drawing on screens or tablets.
So how do you sustain your practice?
Financially? Or how do you mean? It's a weird balance that has somehow worked out. So how it has been since I graduated in 2017 is that I work sometimes with projects or assignments. So I do some things for theater, and sometimes I do this soundtrack thing and I get paid for that. And then I have some grants every once in a while. And it has been kind of that I got maybe one year I got a grant, and then the year after I've mainly had assignments. And then the year after I received some kind of other grant, either an artist grant or a project grant. So it's sort of been moving back and forth between assignments and receiving some funding. Yeah, I have no idea if it can stay like that, and I'm not sure if I'd want that, because it's a very unpredictable
it could be pretty stressful.
Yeah, it's quite stressful. But so far it's been pretty good, so I'm gonna enjoy it while it works, I guess.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed it keeps working. Did you start making instruments from the beginning, or was it first some sort of object and then turned into instruments? How did you go towards the music?
It has been a bit of both. I have made music for a long time already. I used to play the clarinet, and I was singing in bands and played a tiny bit of piano. And then I started art school, and then the music got a bit to the background, even though the program was both sound and art related, but somehow I felt that I had to focus on the art part more. I guess I started missing the actual music part, so it just came back. There's something very satisfying about making music. It's sort of an outlet for ideas and frustrations, and you can put a lot of things into the music making, which are not always so easy to put into this technical art, because the technical art takes a lot of planning, and there's only a very limited space for sort of this spontaneous action. And within music, you can have a lot more of this ideas and maybe emotions and things like that, I feel.
Have you ever had the creative block?
Yeah, I've had some moments where I was sort of not entirely sure what I was doing or what was next.
How do you overcome those?
I try to give it some time, because that probably means that maybe I've overdone it a bit before that. Like, you work yourself into a burnout because you have just, not given yourself any time to rest. Letting go of the pressure really helps. So I really enjoy crafting things as well. So then I try to not really focus so much on the art side, but then sometimes just making something for the sake of making something, learning a new skill or trying out a different technique has really helped for me. You get moving, and then when your hands are moving slowly, your brain starts moving again as well, or you see a certain technique, and then because you learn something new, then you think of something that you could do with that, and that's really been beneficial when I'm stuck.
What would you say are your favorite tools?
Well, my woodworking tools, like I have invested in some new saws and things in the past few years, so I really enjoy like getting the cuts nice and clean and sort of getting the angles right and making things in complicated angles and calculating how everything fits together. I have some audio equipment that is just really fun to play around with, but it took some time to sort of get used to it, so that was also kind of a learning process. I'm looking at the table now where they're standing.
Yeah.
I have done quite a bit of crochet, like the fiber arts, like just to make hats and gloves for myself. Like,
have you?
Yeah. Just to keep your hands busy. I find it very kind of meditative when you're working with your hands and sort of seeing slowly this piece of fabric appear. Yeah, figuring out some new audio software or some editing software.
So you constantly keep updating your knowledge and
I try, yeah, especially within these tech things, because for the electronic side I've been working for many years with Arduino, but now that I want to get some more advanced audio processing done within the installations, I started moving away from Arduino and learning to work more with Raspberry Pis, and I'm now also going to get into the Bela, which is this other microcontroller, more sound focused. So you have to sort of keep up to date, because especially within the microcontroller field, new things keep on getting developed, and some things that were maybe very high tech only a couple of years ago are now kind of outdated, and you can do way more advanced things in easier ways with some newer piece of tech. So you have to keep trying and updating your skills. The digital electronics can be a bit of a pain every once in a while, because it's not just the physical part that you have to get to work, but you also need to do the programming part. The physical part is usually you have to learn the basics once and you can reapply that in many different places. The programming can take a bit more effort to get it, and then you have to hope that it keeps working, because if it's in an exhibition for a month, it might work for the first week and then suddenly something changes, or I don't know, like something that you didn't think about happens, and then you have to redo your whole system.
Oh, God. Has that happened a lot?
I usually try to finish the work a couple of weeks before the deadline. But yeah, those things happen. Like sometimes you think you have something very thoroughly figured out, but if you don't take the time to test it for an extended time frame, then unexpected things happen, and it might not always be so obvious why it doesn't work. The fun of working with tech.
Do you have some specific themes that you work around, or is it more important the shape and functionality of the object?
Depends. The last few years I've worked a lot with interactions that we as humans have with technology, and how some interactions are very intuitive for us because we are used to certain designs. If you have a piece of equipment with a handle, like a drill, like you kind of intuitively know where to grab it, what to push, how to use certain things. And I find it very interesting to sort of play with that. So what if you have a device that you've never seen before, but it uses some of these design aesthetics that we're so used to? Can we then create a kind of interaction with something that we don't know that still feels very intuitive? So I play a lot with interface design and this sort of intuitive interaction that we can then have with things that are new and unknown to us. During my latest work, I've sort of added a layer of agency on it. So I try to sort of give the object a that we are using a sense of agency within the interaction. So for example, the chairs were detecting whether you were sitting on them or not, and then they would give these sort of short comments on what they would want you to do. So when you were not sitting, they would ask you to come closer, go away, sit down. And then when you would be sitting, they would ask like, if you're comfortable, stand up. And then as a user, you could change the interface, like turn some knobs and switch, and you could sort of influence how the chair was communicating with you. So you could sort of choose whether you would understand what the chair was saying, or whether it would turn into this kind of granular background noise, kind of more of an abstract sound thing. So it would always communicate with you. It's just that you could influence whether you'd understand it or not. And I find that kind of an interesting idea. Like, what if our objects that we use and sort of we take their use very much for granted? Like a chair is just something, you see it, you sit in it, you don't really think about it. But what if that chair would actually say something about that? How would you then interact with this object, and how what would that mean sort of for their functionality and our interaction with them? So it's kind of a weird thought experiment. So the chair kind of has a character, but it adjusts to you still. It's not like its own. Yeah, it's this kind of game that you can play with it. Objectify the object. Yes. Yeah. So that, yeah, I've been playing with that. So the combination of interface design and then this like agency and objects and how we interact with things. Do you go to exhibitions a lot? To see other people's work? I should go more. I try to go, but I feel like I'm not going enough. Because, it's always nice to see how people frame things, especially. Because if you see an image of a work, then you can experience some of the work. But if it's in a place and sort of put together with other things, then it becomes something completely different sometimes. So this framing I find very interesting about the exhibition, or sort of the experience of how you move from one work to the other sort of adds a lot of... Yeah, and sometimes half the meaning is there. Yeah. In that. It sounds also like the community around you is important to you. So you go to friends' exhibitions and support them and all that. Yeah, I do feel that's important, because they are kind of the framework in which you function, I think. Because otherwise I'd just be on my own in my studio reiterating my own thoughts, and I really appreciated that there's sort of a wider community of people that you can exchange thoughts with. Good to mention maybe that there are other artist studios around here. Yeah. You are, on 2 floors? Yes, I'm part of Grey Gardens, as we've called it. It basically started as a group of artists that needed a workspace. What we've done is basically we collected 15 people, and then we rented 1 floor of an office building in Itapasila first. And then at some point we needed to move out from that building because it was going to be redeveloped. We decided to rent another space together again. 2 floors in Merihaka. So we that's share why you call it Grey Gardens. Yeah, well, you look out and it's grey. Yeah, it seems we are moving from 70s utopia to 70s utopia. It's like concrete office blocks that we seem to be occupying. They're available and they're relatively affordable, and they have the right kind of layout, because lots of these 70s office buildings, they have these like small offices with doors, and we are all mostly artists that just have their own office, where we do our own stuff. It's not a lot of shared work there. There are some collaborations, and we also organized some exhibitions together as You recently had one. Yeah. Yes, we had one in Galleria Longa, and we're going to have another one in Asbestos Art Space. When? With end of April. Oh, so it's soon. 2 weeks. Soon. 2 weeks, I think, in 2 weeks. Okay, when does it open? Let's put a shout out for that. Yes, I will have to check the exact date, but it opens on... No, I think it opens on Wednesday 26th, if I'm correct. But let's check it. Yeah, 10 days includes the installation. So it's a week, and we're going to do quite a lot of events. So there's going to be a movie night, and I'm going to perform together with Marco, who's another member of the studio. He's a writer, also between other members of the studio. So I do feel it's quite valuable to have this community, even though everybody works with very different media and has very different work styles. I'm here a lot in the evenings, and then other people are here more in the mornings, and you don't often see each other sometimes.
You do all of your work basically here, so you cannot do without a studio.
No, I have worked from home at some point, but lots of the work I do is messy, or soldering is quite smelly, and I really need to separate my home from my work.
Woodwork comes with a lot of dust.
Yeah.
What would be some places of inspiration, like books or movies or music or something?
Yeah,
that might affect your work. And
I have some books that I like to keep around. They're not really like hardcore literature on my work, but there's this book, Push Turn Move, that I found very inspirational, because it's basically like let's find a nice page. It's very much about interface design of different synthesizers and such, and sort of what kind of considerations people have been making also historically through interface design and synthesizer design. And it really kind of communicates like when people have used knobs and when people have used more digital interfaces, and sort of what the differences is. What differences that makes for playability and things like that. I find that very interesting to read and also to see, because it's a nice overview with colorful buttons and nice pictures and lots of interfaces. This one I've enjoyed a lot.
I can put them to the side somewhere.
Yeah. This was a present that I got at some point. Things Come Apart, kind of like a nice coffee table book as well, but it's these very like nice aesthetic pictures of different equipment pieces,
different objects,
different objects disassembled.
I love those things.
With like all the parts neatly laid out. Like, I love this book. It's so nice to just like go through the pages and see what you find. Like,
when I was in the media lab, I it became almost like a hobby to take old screens from somewhere and take them apart.
Yes, I've always enjoyed like seeing what's inside things. Maybe that's one of the reasons why I started to build semi-functioning objects, because I wanted to know what was inside it and what made it work. So what better than have a book full of pictures of what's inside things? So you miss the satisfying part of unscrewing things, but then again, you can see the insides of a whole lot more than what you maybe have available to take apart. So this is a nice one. I really like this book. And then I have some, like, these are two practical books that especially in the beginning, I built a lot of circuits from this to sort of learn about electronics as well. So this was one that I started with, Handmade Electronic Music by Nicholas Collins. It's a very well-known book for the electronics people around. It describes all kinds of circuits and things that you can build, like relatively simple oscillators, and it explains things in a very accessible way, I found. So this is a lot
of notes coming out.
Yes, there's lots of notes and things that I've enjoyed about this. And then this was also has some notes. This is a engineer's notebook by Forrest Mims, and I especially appreciate the hand-drawn schematics that are in here. I've also played with these ideas, like what if a schematic or technical documentation of the pieces that I make are also part of sort of the visual presentation of things. But these are actually also very...
It's not only the schematics, it's the whole text.
Yeah, it's the whole text. Everything is handwritten, hand-drawn. But it's very accessible stuff to build and very handy as well. I work a lot with digital electronics myself, but this is sort of the layer that is inside many of your many of the things that you need. So this kind of explains the mechanisms that go behind a lot of things. So I've built a lot of stuff from this as well.
Very interesting.
Yeah, so those are some favorites. And yes, music as well. Like I follow, like I go through SoundCloud and like listen to a lot of random things. Like often I only listen to one track from a certain artist because I found it somewhere and on some platform, and then it goes into my personal playlist of things that I play on repeat. But I really love sort of these songs or compositions that have all these different layers that interconnect and then sort of communicate with each other and then move apart from each other again and then interconnect again. So it's not necessarily one specific artist, but there are just like some of these songs that live in my head just because they have like a certain textural element that I really appreciate.
Are you free?
Okay, yeah, so the chairs, they detect when you're sitting or not because there's a light sensor in the seat, and then they play these different samples, and when you're not sitting they kind of try to lure you to come towards them and to interact with them. So yeah, this one is actually now not screwed closed because I'm doing some gentle maintenance. So we can actually show the inside. So it's a Raspberry Pi and an audio interface. I have these 3 power plugs there because I thought I would need more power, but I only needed 1. And then all the way on the right, there's this analog to digital converter so that I can use the knobs together with the Raspberry Pi. And then yeah, on the back side, there's a speaker and a tiny amplifier and lots of cables. It's a scale model of the design because before I built it, I wanted to check the scale of the thing so that all the sizes sort of made sense together and in piece. Okay, so yeah, these are inspired by phone interfaces over time. So you had the rotary phone, then this is this sort of monochrome screen phone where you still had the button to pick up. Yeah, kind of, yeah. And then you had the green button to pick up a call and the red button to like hang up again. And then some companies started experimenting with these kind of these sort of navigation buttons at the top. So you had this like this sort of Sony Ericsson, for example, had this little pokey. Yeah, this like
down, left, right.
Yeah. So this one is inspired by that. So you have kind of 2 different colors of white. Color screen got introduced. So yeah, then there's that one, and then the last one is the smartphone. So it doesn't actually have a touchscreen, but it has sort of a representation for all these colorful app icons and then some lights in between. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like a design exercise where I wanted to make these wall-mounted panels. This might be a candidate for some product design sometime in the future. It's a MIDI controller. So this was controlling visuals. This is another thing that I'm working on now. So this is going to be a kind of like the television egg thing. So this is the front with a screen, and then this is going to be like the side panel. So I use this very thin wood to sort of make the curved shape. But yeah, this is where I do my woodwork.
Right.
Maybe that's it.
Maybe that's it.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you.